The march toward impeachment and the march further right at the State House. Joining us on Columbus on the Record this week, Andy Chow, State House reporter for Ohio Public Radio. Ann Fisher, host of All Sides with Ann Fisher on 89.7 NPR News. Bob Clegg, Republican strategist. And Sam Gresham of Common Cause Ohio. For now, the public impeachment hearings are over. This week saw 3 long days of testimony, spin, and posturing. The star witness was U.S. Ambassador to the European Union, Gordon Sondland, who said U.S. assistance to Ukraine was a this for that arrangement. But the heart of the hearings was summarized by Fiona Hill. The former national security expert described an argument she had with Ambassador Sondland.
So I was upset with him that he wasn't fully telling us about all of the meetings that he was having. And he said to me, but I'm briefing the president. I'm briefing Chief of Staff Mulvaney. I'm briefing Secretary Pompeo, and I've talked to Ambassador Bolton. Who else do I have to deal with? And the point is we have a robust interagency process that deals with Ukraine. It includes Mr. Holmes. It includes Ambassador Taylor as the chargé in Ukraine. It includes a whole load of other people. But it struck me yesterday when you put up on the screen Ambassador Sondland's emails and who was on these emails, and he said, these are the people who need to know, that he was absolutely right, because he was being involved in a domestic political errand. And we were being involved in national security foreign policy, and those two things had just diverged.
And Fisher, that's the crux of this whole thing. Politics and foreign policy mixing, and where's the line? Do you think anyone's minds were changed over these past week or so?
Anyone who was sitting on the fence, perhaps, but people, the people with their feet, firmly on one side or the other, I doubt it very much, because of this is where politics and statesmanship is not converging.
Talk about diverged. Our political world is diverged.
Right.
Bob, how do you think Republicans did? How did they, from your perspective, how did they go?
Well, I mean, I just checked the president's approval rating with Real Clear Politics last night, and his ratings have actually gone up since the hearings have started. He's now over 44% approval, which for him is pretty high. I think impeachment has lost the glitz and glamour it used to have. We did it with Bill Clinton, and it was partisan. We had partisan votes. George W. Bush was always threatened with impeachment. In fact, Dennis Kucinich, filed articles of impeachment on him. And now we have it with President Trump. I think it's just viewed now as a political game that is being used for political purposes. And you saw it with the initial vote on the inquiry, which was party line, except for 2 Democrats who voted with the Republicans. We'll have to see what the impeachment vote looks like. But I think most people think it's just a partisan political process.
Is it because the Democrats are rushing this? I mean, they're not waiting to call John Bolton. They're not waiting to call Mike Pompeo or even Rudy Giuliani, for that matter.
I have a different perception. I think the Democrats have been brilliant in what they've done. They peeled this president like an onion, one at a time. And now they have the preponderance of the country believing he's done something. The Republicans are trying to say, yeah, he did it, but it's not worth impeachment. So we've made a long move. And I think what they've done is set us up for the trial in the Senate. Now, most people think the Republicans should be looking forward to that trial. I don't think the Republicans should look forward to it, because if it's timed just right, it will require 4 Republicans to cast some votes they may not want to cast, and it may throw the Senate into play for the election.
And furthermore, they don't get to necessarily make up all the rules of what trial takes place in the Senate. That's up to the chief of the U.S. Supreme Court.
Chief Justice John Roberts would preside over a Senate trial.
Right.
It's become a little nitpicky, too, where, okay, so if you were asked to do this for that sort of plan, but did it happen, and did he tell you directly? And then it's become more of a technical picking apart, especially among the House Republicans who are sitting on the committee, sort of attacking somebody like Ambassador Sondland, saying, like, well, did he tell you directly that this is what he wanted, and did you keep notes, and where? And so it's getting really technical at this point.
Bob, I want to get your take on the Ohio congressmen who were on the panel. Jim Jordan, no surprise, he was an attack dog. Mike Turner originally didn't like the phone call the president
Yeah.
had with Ukraine. Said it was not okay, I believe
Yeah.
was the exact quote. But he was pretty tough on witnesses and pretty firmly in the president's camp during these hearings.
Yeah, I think the Republicans have pretty much coalesced on this. And if there were anybody that was shaky, they aren't anymore. I think the interesting thing is going to be to see how many Democrats break away on both the impeachment vote, because I'm guessing they're going to have at least 5 Democrats that are going to not vote to impeach. I mean, you have 30 Democrat congressmen sitting in districts that President Trump carried in 2016. My guess is those 30 are going to think about it very carefully. And then in the Senate, you're already going to have two Democrats that are not going to convict, and that's Joe Manchin and Doug Jones from Alabama.
why do we-
So, I mean, if you're going to see any breakaways in this, it's going to be Democrats joining Republicans, not Republicans joining Democrats.
Unless
There's
something
going to
else
have
comes
to be
out.
something, another shoe drops.
Yeah, because right now, Emerson just came out with a poll yesterday, majority of Americans do not want to impeach the president. And it's a majority of Republicans, obviously. Big
But a
majority.
plurality
But
does, just not a majority.
no, it's over 50, because it showed both a majority of independents and Republicans. The only, Democrats were the only ones that wanted to. No, it was like 51, 52%.
Oh, okay. Well, that's what I saw was like
Yeah, yeah.
47, 47.
Why when you say that the Democrats are at peril?
No, I didn't say apparel. I'm just saying if we see it break away from a party line vote, you're going to see Democrats breaking with Republicans, not Republicans breaking with Democrats.
What that
and you've
reason-
already seen it on the inquiry vote.
What that dismisses is 18, what happened in 18, and the most recent state elections that happened. They're not trending to support Republicans.
Okay, well, I'm just telling you that if there's going to be any breaks in the party vote, it's going to be Democrats joining Republicans.
No, in the Senate, there may be 4 senators who
You
may.
already have 2 Democrat senators who said they're not going to impeach.
Well, I said Republican.
We'll count the votes when they happen. We'll see who votes which way. Anyway, with all the impeachment news, it went almost unnoticed. The 10 leading Democrats for president debated this week. It was largely a cordial affair, no real zingers. It was pretty substantive. Of course, the big dividing line between top Democrats is health care. All want to expand government health care in some form, but some, like Elizabeth Warren, want mandatory Medicare for all, even though she would phase it in over the course of her term.
And then, in the 3rd year, when people have had a chance to feel it and taste it and live with it, we're going to vote and we're going to want Medicare for all.
And in the first week of my administration, we will introduce Medicare for all. Medicare for all, that means no deductibles, no co-payments, no out-of-pocket expenses.
Creating a version of Medicare, making it available to anybody who wants it, but without the divisive step of ordering people onto it, whether they want to or not.
160 million people like their private insurance, and if they don't like it, they can buy into a Medicare-like proposal in my plan. Drug prices go down, premiums go down across the board, but here's the deal. They get to choose.
Bob, in the past, I think on this show, you said that, during Obama's first term, if they wanted government health care, they should have just gone for it all.
They should.
Raise taxes, Medicare
Just do
for
it.
all, and get rid of insurance.
They didn't have enough Democrats that were willing to do it.
Is now the time to do it?
Yeah, go for it. Don't think it's going to happen. But they got a problem there. I mean, I don't know how they're going to resolve that. I mean, there is that progressive side with Warren and Sanders and AOC and all those people that really want this Medicare for all. And they don't want to budge from it. And you have the more pragmatic people like Mayor Pete and the Vice President Biden, and they understand the peril, the political peril here. So the parties, they're going to have to figure this one out. I don't know how they're going to figure it out.
We said the same thing about Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, all these things. The boogeyman was going to come get us. Eventually, we are the only industrialized country in the world that does not have a comprehensive universal health care
Sam, they should have
program.
done it in 2009.
No,
they had majorities. They had a supermajority in the Senate.
They decided
had
to
big
do
majorities
healthcare.
in the House.
They
had
decided to do
President
something
Obama.
else. But it's coming, and I don't worry about that.
I think it's obviously something that people care about. We learned that from the 2018 elections.
right.
It's obviously something they care about. The question is how far they're going, and that it's a matter of degree at this point.
The issue of healthcare is you have to be able to explain it in a quick amount of time for your average voter. And so now, over the course of years and years, most average voters understand what Obamacare is with the Affordable Care Act. But this is, or was. But now, if you have new candidates coming in with new plans, I think it's going to, once again, starting from the beginning, going to be a hard sell. Now, this might be something that really earns votes in Democratic primaries, but I think Republicans are chomping at the bit for somebody who does push for Medicare for all, because I think they think it'll be easy to run against that
Sam, let's play this out. A moderate candidate wins the nomination, or even Elizabeth Warren wins the nomination and scraps her Medicare for all. Will those progressive Democrats not come out and vote for him or her because they went back on their Medicare for all promise?
I don't think so.
They'll still come out, or they won't vote?
They're coming out because this election is going to be so heated. You know, if you really think about it, all the Democrats have to do is flip 2 states. That's Pennsylvania, which is run by a Democrat now, and Michigan, which is run by a Democrat now. All they have to do is get their base out, turn their base out, and they win this election.
Do Republicans who may sit out come out fearing a Medicare for all plan? Does that galvanize opponents to the Democrat?
On the Republican side, with President Trump running for re-election, I don't think there's anything that needs to be gin that up. I think the Republicans are going to come out no matter what. No, the Democrats, they have a situation. They have that debate was interesting because Senator Harris started talking to Mayor Pete about African-American voters. And she was kind of dancing around it, but didn't get into it about how we can't take that vote for granted. Yeah. But there are some concerns that he would have problems in the African-American community. I don't know. I mean, they have a lot of issues. They have a lot of candidates. This 10-candidate format is awful. If I were the Democrat, I mean, they should have learned the lesson that the Republicans did in 2016. They should have the top 4 or 5, and that's it.
It'll get whittled down to probably maybe 7 or 8 by December, I guess, based on the trending.
But what we are seeing is that there's a lot of people who do have support for those candidates who are polling lower. And I think the Democratic Party is showing, listen, we're giving your person a chance to discuss and talk and not excluding them from the conversation.
I think the polls are premature at this point. You have Iowa, you have New Hampshire, and then you have the southern states and Super Tuesday. Anything now, let's take Kamala Harris. She did well. Mm-hmm. She is in almost the same place Barack Obama was at this time when he won his first presidency. I also think she's facing 2 things. She's facing a woman and a black. And in some people's minds, we've had a black and we are afraid of a woman. So she is up against that. We'll see how that works out.
Well, I mean, right now, Vice President Biden's doing better among African-American voters than she is. Well, I would hope so. If all they'd have to do is watch that debate and see how he fumbled and bumbled his way through it, you would think that they would figure that one out.
I think you misread the African-American vote for Biden.
No. I'm just telling you what I see in the polls that the Biden campaign themselves
Cory
produced.
Booker or Kamala Harris has a half a chance of winning this thing, they'll run like.
Do you think that they're not being given a chance by your party, or what?
No, it's not that. It's the results of the polling. It's the results of the election. They did not believe in Barack Obama.
Oh, I know. And then once they figured out that he was a real candidate,
right.
But
and
my question is, when does that occur?
Super Tuesday. Super Tuesday.
Okay.
That's when that occurs.
In case you haven't heard, Congresswoman Joyce Beatty faces a primary challenger who is getting some attention. Beatty seeks her 4th term in Congress, and newcomer Morgan Harper is challenging her from the left. Beatty is certainly the favorite in this race, but Morgan has raised $350,000 and has the endorsement of the group that backed Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the far-left congresswoman from New York. Harper has asked the Franklin County Democratic Party to refrain from endorsing a candidate before the primary. The party says it plans to endorse a candidate, and it likely will be Joyce Beatty. Sam Grisham, I know you're an independent, so you're not a party member, but should they stay out of this race until the primary, the party?
I think they should, but they're not going to do that. And they have a partisan involvement in this. But I think what she did was brilliant. It raised the question, and she got some earned media. She didn't have to pay anything for this. Now, the $350,000 is scaring the Beatty group because they're wondering how she raised $350,000. Additionally, she's causing a schism in the African-American community. The upper middle class, the bourgeois, have supported Joyce. the young people and the working class haven't decided where they want to go yet. And the middle class is kind of hanging out there. We'll see.
This highlights a problem that we've been seeing consistently over the course of the last few elections, where the party starts to flex its muscle in endorsing a candidate before a primary happens. And that kind of gets back to what we were talking about with the debates. I think last time when the party sort of gathered around Hillary Clinton and sort of excluded Bernie Sanders, that really hurt the progressive base in the long run. And so I think what we're seeing here is that more and more progressives are getting upset about the party getting into it too quickly.
Yeah, it's
too
making
early.
it's very brittle now, and it's showing.
It's pretty wise on Morgan Harper's to make an issue of this, because now if Joyce Beatty gets the endorsement, she says, well, she's the establishment, I'm the newcomer, I'm the one that's going to change things. Will it work though?
No, I don't think it's going to work. And her comparing 2020 to 2012, because she says, well, in 2012, the party didn't get involved. Well, you had a former Congresswoman, Mary Jo Kilroy, running against Joyce Beatty. It was an open seat. It was a new seat.
That was a new seat.
Yeah, it was an open seat.
That
They
was a no-brainer.
should stay out. But this is an incumbent Congresswoman who I think personally is doing a great job representing her district. And why wouldn't they endorse her?
Yeah, but if you make a mistake if you think this is a one-off, that she's going to do this the one time. This is not a one-off.
No, it's a problem the Democrat Party has and will continue to have for the foreseeable future. The Bernie-Hillary thing was only the beginning in 2016. It's carrying on.
She will run again at the next election time. And as this free earned media she's getting will rise her name off. And if she can cut or peel some of that African-American community away from Joyce in this first election, and I'm telling you, people didn't see that $350,000 coming.
Right.
No.
A new bill at the State House would ban abortion outright in Ohio. The bill would declare fetuses as people entitled to full legal protection. Doctors who perform abortions in Ohio would be charged with murder and could face the death penalty. Critics call the bill unconstitutional and a political stunt. Andy Chow, this reminds me of the heartbeat bill. It was criticized as being too far right, unconstitutional. Even Ohio right to life stayed out of the fight. The same thing is happening here, but the heartbeat bill became law.
This is basically the last thing left. I mean, the right to life and people who are against abortions have been fighting not to just do a big swing of the bat, but just to slowly peel away against abortion over the years. And so they got the heartbeat bill, the 6-week abortion ban, and so this is basically the only thing left to move on. And I think we've seen even some of the more conservative Republicans are sort of balking at it and saying, maybe we shouldn't go this far at this point.
Well, they did the same thing for the 6-week abortion ban too. I mean, for three different sessions, I think it was introduced. So that's nothing new. It's the start of the end in their minds.
And so what we talked to Governor Mike DeWine about it, and he's even said maybe we should hold off on something like this and wait to see what happens in the courts with the so-called heartbeat bill, because other states have passed similar bills. They're being challenged in courts right now. So he's saying let's wait to see what the U.S. Supreme Court says first.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I caution my friends on the right with regards to abortion. Be careful for what you ask for, because you may get that and you'll start a tidal wave of resistance to you around the country, because it would become a political wedge issue in most states in this union. So be careful.
Because it is that way on the right now. Could it flip that way? The abortion, it galvanizes the vote on the right more so than on the left. Could overturning Roe, if it ever happened, galvanize the left and backfire on Republicans?
Maybe it could, but I mean, these are all hypotheticals that we're talking about, because all of this has to go to the court. You know, I've always, I'm obviously sympathetic to the bill. I'm pro-life. But I also believe that every state should have the right to vote on this matter themselves. I know a lot of my friends on the left don't agree with that, but I really do think this is a state issue, and each state, I think we can't have laws that people won't agree upon. So that's why I think something as important as abortion is something that should be up for a vote in each of the 50 states.
Do you think that would settle the issue?
I don't know if it would settle it, but I mean, it would give it more permanency, I think, because obviously you're going to have some states that would, restrict all abortions or stop all abortions, and others that would say fine. So just going to have to travel, I guess.
The dynamics of this is interesting. There's a layer of hypocrisy that exists with this issue. That is, we only care about the birth of white babies. We don't care about black babies who are in poverty. We don't care about those babies as much as we care about white babies.
Pro-life would tell you that they are upset by the fact that the majority of, or a big percentage of women or babies that are aborted are African-American babies. And they believe those babies should be saved.
And you want me to believe those people will go out there and take care of those babies who were born. They will support legislation.
Well, that's always part of the
They don't do that.
That's part of the deal, that you got to make sure, like programs like Moms to Be and things like that, which is supported by the DeWine administration. They are supporting, trying to help women in low-income socioeconomic situations while they're pregnant and even after pregnancy, so that they will get the kind of help they need in childcare, a job, a place to live.
All right, let's get to our last topic. The Ohio House has approved a bill that would protect students' rights to religious expression in public schools. The bill would extend such expressions to assignments. Critics say it would require teachers to give students credit for incorrect answers if they are the students' religious beliefs. The bill's sponsor says it clarifies state law, which already gives students the freedom to express their religion in school. So, Andy, does this mean that if I write on a science test that the Earth is 6,000 years old, the teacher has to accept that answer?
According to supporters of the bill, no. The teacher can still mark that as an incorrect answer. If a student wanted to do an art project saying that the Earth is 6,000 years old, then that student cannot be docked points for being scientifically inaccurate. A lot has been made about this bill.
But is the bill that specific there? Because it says assignments. Does it clarify science versus math versus music versus?
No, it doesn't. And that's where the Democrats and people who oppose the bill say that it could add more confusion than actually helping here. And this is what happens with these bills. When opponents call these bills redundant, I think what's happening is that they say, well, there are already rules that protect religious expression in schools. If you add more and more and more, that could only cause confusion, and then maybe we end up in the courts, and maybe a student or a parent comes in and starts to argue.
I don't think there's any maybe about it.
Of
If this
course,
law
right.
gets enacted, it's going to court.
And there's another provision here that talks about religious expression during instructional time. And that's something that's not getting a lot of play, but I think that could also become an issue in the future.
What happened between separation of religion? What happened?
Is there any, seriously, I mean, let's look at it from a practical standpoint. If the teachers aren't teaching that the Earth is 6,000 years old or the Earth is flat, and a kid writes it in a test and it's okay, whatever. Is there any real harm in that, just letting it go?
Wait, giving them the point even though it's an incorrect answer?
If it's obviously a religious
It's a slippery slope. No, I would say absolutely. I mean, no. If it's wrong, it's wrong. You've got to mark it wrong, and they've got to take the hit. That's ridiculous.
Well,
I think these are all, when we have diverse opinions in a classroom, which we should have. Okay, we're teaching. It's a teachable moment. These are like understanding why another student's coming from a different angle, hearing why, understanding why. See, so many of our problems today is everybody in politics especially, I'm right, you're wrong. Yep. And I'm not going to listen to anything you say about this.
Yeah, but if this is a science class and you're studying the age of the Earth.
Yeah, but what if somebody says, you know what, I really believe that the world was created in 7 days according to the book of Genesis. Shouldn't that student be able to explain why he does? And don't you think that would be a good?
He can.
Don't you think that's a good thing for the other students who may not believe that, but understand
I get your
why?
point. When I was at Michigan State, we had a creationist come in. This is 100 years ago, of course, so this is way before the job, and talk about creationism. And the science professor stood back and let it happen. But that doesn't mean that I could give a creationist-based answer on a test and get it right.
And the people will say there are moments where those conversations can happen, just not in a science class. So, I mean, I took Polyrad in high school, and that is where you have these conversations, and a creationist can come in, and you know, scientists can come in and talk about.
And then you set up a series of things where everybody gets their little piece. Now, I want my piece. Africans were the first people on Earth, and everybody came from there.
Why not?
They migrated to North America first before everybody else got here.
Laughing at you,
Sam's fired up, so we got to get to our final off the record parting shots. Sam, you're up first.
I want to remind people that a very important thing is going on now. It's called open enrollment on health care. It opens on November 1st and it closes on December 15th. Because the government is not advertising, everybody go out, get your health care. Please get some health care.
Bob.
Joe Biden got some good news on the campaign trail this week, and that's been slow to come by. He has got another grandchild. Hunter Biden had to take a DNA test because some woman in Arkansas filed a paternity lawsuit against him, and it said 99.9% he's the father.
Ann.
I actually was going to say that next week I predict that they will drain Mirror Lake on the OSU campus in advance of the Michigan game. But no, they drained it last night. So that's it. I'm done with predictions.
Well, for the Penn State game, it's going to be a big win for the Buckeyes, we expect. Anyway.
AEP had a plan to basically purchase the largest amount of solar power in the state, but the state regulators and the PUCO denied that plan, so they have to go back to the drawing board to figure out how they can develop renewable energy in Ohio.
Okay, OSU President Michael Drake announced he will retire in the next year. So you know what that means. It's the tradition here at Ohio State campus of speculating who the next president's going to be. So here's a few names. John Kasich, Jim Tressel, Archie Griffin, Gordon Gee could go back for tour number 3. All of those Democrats who don't make it through the nomination process, they could put their hat into the ring. President Trump, should it not work out at the White House, bring him to Ohio State. Put his name on the list. Anyway, that is Columbus on the Record for this week. Check us out online, Facebook, Twitter, and our website where you can see each episode on demand. Watch it whenever you want or just to relive the experience at our website, WOSU.org. For our crew and for our panel, I'm Mike Thompson. Have a good week.